Hello there, YouTube. Today I'm going to be doing a list of my top 5 guilty pleasures, but first I want to make a shout out to a good old YouTuber I know, the Italian Stallion 51. I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope that, well, you stay a friend of mine throughout all this, because if you don't, well, with that out of the way, let's count down my top 5 guiltiest pleasures. Number 5. Doom. Oh yeah, I like Doom. You know, that little movie that came out about that really popular 90s game. Yeah, that Doom. To this day, I still enjoy watching it, if not for the cheese factor and the obvious special effects that are just plain awesome. Yes, I like this movie solely based on the fact that The Rock is a villain, and the monsters actually look pretty cool, and it has that first-person shooter mode scene. And yes, I know I'm gonna get flack for this, but the really big reason why I like it is because, well, id didn't say anything bad about it. They kept on pushing the movie, they liked the movie. And I think people generally overlook that. They don't look at the movie for what it was, they look at the movie as a failure. I like to look at the movie as entertainment. So with that out of the way, let's get to number 4. Number 4. Jurassic Park: The Lost World. Oh, well, reverse that, actually. But I'll admit, I'm probably a minority on this, and I liked the second movie. Solely based on the fact, much like the last one, it was entertaining. But aside from that, the characters were pretty good. The special effects were decent, I can only say decent, and the ending, well, it was extremely campy and somewhat cheesy. It still grabbed me, and it made me feel like I was watching a movie that was interesting. However, I really think the movie should have stayed closer to the book, as it explained a lot more. But aside from that, I will always consider this to be a good sequel. Number 3 is probably the most guiltiest one I have, and that is Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Again, I'm probably on a very, very small minority here. Maybe even smaller than the last one, but I love AVPR. Not to the same extent of my first choice, or my second, but I like this nonetheless, because it has a lot more merits when compared to the last movie. The last movie was a PG-13 non-gore fest that only served to let us fans know that they didn't care. Paul W.S. Anderson was not a fan and didn't understand the characters. The Strauss brothers tried at least, and were at least a little successful in terms of characters. The humans, while they weren't horrible and weren't badly written, they were at least a bit more tolerable than the last one. The aliens, while there were multitudes and the gestation and aging process was extremely fast, even compared to the last one, I still enjoyed it. Made it a lot. The Predator is probably the second best only to the first one, and to this day I admit AVPR really pulled off the pretty alien. With that out of the way, let's get down to the number 2 pick. The number 2 guiltiest pleasure is... oh, I don't want to say it because I know people are going to get angry. Batman and Robin. This is probably going to get me hate, but I can't help it. As a kid, I liked the movie. It is a guilty pleasure solely based on the fact it's cheesy, campy, bad acted, horribly written, but I just can't get over the fact it was a toy commercial. I own one of those toys too. I really do. And I know what you're thinking. How could you like the movie? I was a kid. I had never seen Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever. I'd seen this one. And my parents didn't seem to dislike the movie, and my dad knew more about Batman than I did when I was a kid. Hell, most of my friends thought it was good too, and sometimes when I talk to them about it, they still admit it. It's good. But I still can't help but say I hate the movie. And yes, a guilty pleasure. I don't know why. As for my number one pick, before we do that, let's get some honorable mentions out of the way. Honorable mention is Jaws 2. Yes, the only good Jaws sequel. As for another honorable mention, Hannibal 2. Yes, it's a guilty pleasure. Why is it a guilty pleasure? Usually I don't like that kind of stuff, but that worked. So, with those honorable mentions out of the way, what's my number one pick? Well, that's really simple. The Last Starfighter. Okay, if you do not know about this movie, I'll just say it right now. It was the first movie, one of the first movies, to incorporate CGI to a full-scale picture. Really, this movie was all about video game. A boy plays a video game, gets recruited by some space frontier thingy to fight evil aliens, and of course, he fights them. But the cool thing about that is, the entire space scene is in fact CGI. And honestly, I have to admit, it works well in this film. The CGI, the characters, hell, even the moral was great, and to this day remains my favorite guilty pleasure. But you might be wondering, why is it a guilty pleasure when I love it so much? Because no one's heard about it. It's such a cult classic, and yet no one hears about it. I haven't heard about it in like forever, and I just watched it recently. And I have to admit, to this day, I still can't help but feel guilty about watching it. So, that was my top 5 guilty pleasures. Next time, we'll be taking a look at my very first special monthly reviews. Sequel month. Bad sequel month. No, not bad sequel month. We'll just stick with sequel month. I'll save the bad ones for later.